One of the things about writing a book that's very, very interesting is once those words are down, they're there forever. And so I actually just spent 3 days in seclusion completely revising my first book, Conscious Being, because I'm like, I would never say that way. That's so 4 years ago, right? Because evolution, right? I'm always amazed when politicians get accused of flip-flopping. Like, that's not what you believed about that 15 years ago. And my answer is, I hope not. I hope I've evolved. I hope I've grown. I hope my awareness has expanded. And so I have shifted the conversation from forgiveness to making peace with the past. Is it possible for me, when I am deeply entrenched in the consciousness of good, bad, right, wrong, for me to forgive? If I truly believe that you have harmed me, is it really possible for me to let that go? One way I know that I probably haven't let it go is if I say something like, oh, I've let that go. Right? But I have that whole posture. Oh, I'm done with that. So really, making peace with the past has nothing to do with the past at all. As a matter of fact, the past is an idea. When I first came to Unity and I first started working on some of the past of my own life, I remember calling my sisters. This is back when phones had cords. I took that phone. It wasn't still rotary, but it was pretty close. And I called my sisters because I wanted to get confirmation about the stories that I had about my past, in particular, my dad, and also my mom. And I love what Michael Beckwith said. He said, if we can just get people to forgive their parents, we can begin this process of awakening. And I called my sisters, and I did expect to hear a different version of the story, but what I was shocked at is that we didn't have different versions of the story, we had totally different stories. My sister, my younger sister, thank you for laughing, my younger sister has a story that our dad was the most loving, open-hearted, and present father of anyone she knew. I was under that same roof, and I promise you this was my story. Dad was never there. He did not love me. He was always busy with some extracurricular activities. And therefore, I decided I was unlovable. 2 different people, same house. I doubt he treated her totally differently than he treated me. Somehow what I filtered, or what I experienced as my young self, was, I'm not lovable. And so I decided very deeply that there was something fundamentally wrong with me or broken. And I spent 20 years trying to forgive. I spent 20 years trying to connect the dots of all the patterns of my behavior or my beliefs or my ideas. And then at one point I recognized that what was really needed was a recognition that it probably didn't happen the way I thought it happened anyway, and that it wasn't so much about what happened, it was more about what I decided about myself and the world. And so again, the seed. If I plant an I'm not lovable seed, what's going to grow? An I'm not lovable tree. And when I use affirmations, it's like clipping those branches. It's useful. I might even cut the tree down. But what's going to grow back? I'm not lovable tree. And so my strategy for the I'm not lovable core belief that I had about myself was please love me, please love me, please love me. But I was baffled and perplexed that I kept choosing unavailable people. Marianne Williamson, I was on the treadmill one day and I had a Walkman. Again, we're going back. It was a while back. And it was one of the cassette Walkmans, so it's a while ago. And I was on the treadmill and I was listening to Marianne Williamson talk about relationships. And she said it's very popular these days to say, why do I keep attracting unavailable people? And her question was, what if I change that to why am I attracted to unavailable people? That was a game changer for me. But I now have a different way to approach or to frame this. What am I wanting them to be available for, is my question. No one and no thing can ever change those core beliefs about who I believe I am, which, by the way, is a fundamental lie anyway. Because we know in unity teachings that there's one power and one presence, and that I am a perfect expression of that. But this perfect expression of that came into a world that didn't necessarily celebrate that, or at least I didn't believe it did. So I decided I was broken. Making peace with the past has nothing to do with forgiveness at all, but a shift in consciousness to recognize that it isn't what happened, and not only is it not what happened, but it probably didn't happen the way I decided it happened anyway. In other words, not only am I making my life mean what I'm making it mean, but I'm making it mean that from a lie from 50 years ago. And yet I'm carrying it around. Sometimes in workshops, I will ask people to carry, we take a backpack and fill it with heavy rocks, and they have to stand up in front of the room holding the bag and telling some of their stories from the past. And the idea is to simply recognize how heavy the bag of rocks is. We spend so much time talking about how the rocks got in there, or how they're in that bag, or why do I keep doing this, when we literally can let the bag go. And for me, it can take a lifetime, or it can happen in an instant, where I can come back to a greater reality, and that is there's a place within me that is unharmed and unharmable. And when I know that I know that I know, the past doesn't even really need to be changed at all. I simply bring myself back to a deeper reality. There's only one surrender, and that is to know that I am a perfect expression of the one power. So we can use affirmations, and we can use thought, which is powerful, but ultimately this is about frequency and vibration. What are those core beliefs that I have about myself, and what happens when I recognize the lie that they are? But here's the thing, for me, I can't do a spiritual bypass, because this is what it looked like for me for 10 years in unity. There's only love and light. All is great. We don't talk about that. That's not real. That's an illusion. The only thing that's true is God. But in the meantime, I hadn't done any of that deeper work. So I felt confused. I did my affirmations, things got manifested, I didn't feel different. Or I did my affirmations, and things didn't manifest. And so we're in a profound moment in the evolution of human consciousness right now, and each of us is a part of that. And that is, we are now shifting from the law of attraction to the law of radiance. And that this is no longer about us attracting anything at all from the world, but recognizing that our core vibration, the deepest truth of who and what we are, is not any of those lies. It is essential beingness. And when I know that, I get to radiate that into the world. And the greatest paradox that happens is everything I was hoping for that was going to bring me happiness starts to manifest. Anyone relate to this conversation? And so the deeper work, if we call it work, is simply returning to that place of knowing who and what we are. Making peace with the past, overcoming core false beliefs. I used to call it releasing core false beliefs. First of all, it didn't make a good acronym. But secondly, what if it's not about releasing them? What if it's about just recognizing that they're not the truth of who and what I am, that they're lies I've been carrying around?